Welcome back, you beautiful catastrophes in progress, you silent architects of your own resurrection. Welcome to the ones who turned their rock bottom into a research facility, their breakdown into a blueprint, their pain into a patent. They watched you fall, didn't they? They circled like vultures, phones out, screenshots ready, popcorn in hand. They laughed when you lost your job, when your relationship crumbled, when you couldn't pay rent, when you ate the same meal for 7 days straight because that's all you could afford. They laughed when you cried, when you begged, when you asked for help that never came. They thought they were watching your destruction. They didn't realize they were witnessing your transformation into something they'd never be able to comprehend, something they'd spend years trying to decode, something that would haunt their quiet moments forever. Because here's what they missed while they were busy mocking your misery. You weren't just surviving down there, in that darkness, in that isolation, in that financial hell, in that emotional wasteland. You were studying. You were taking notes. You were documenting every betrayal like a scientist logs data, every fake smile like evidence in a case file, every broken promise like a lesson in human nature. Your rock bottom wasn't a grave. It was a laboratory. And you became the experiment that rewrote the entire thesis on what a human being can endure and still come back sharper, colder, more precise, more dangerous than before. They thought low was your destination. They didn't understand. Low was your launch pad, your training ground, your initiation into a level of consciousness most people will never access because they've never been forced to rebuild themselves from absolute zero. Let's talk about what really happened in that laboratory, shall we? While they were sleeping peacefully, you were awake at 3 a.m, staring at the ceiling, mind racing, calculating, strategizing. While they were posting their fake happy lives, you were sitting in silence, learning the language of solitude, discovering that being alone isn't loneliness when you're building an empire inside your skull. While they were getting validation from strangers, you were getting validation from the mirror, from the version of yourself that refused to quit, even when quitting seemed like the only logical option. You learned things down there that can't be taught in schools, can't be bought with money, can't be inherited from family. You learned that hunger sharpens focus, that betrayal reveals character, that isolation breeds clarity, that pain is the greatest teacher if you're brave enough to stay enrolled in the class. They laughed because they thought you needed them, needed their approval, their acceptance, their pity disguised as concern. They thought watching you struggle would make them feel better about their own mediocrity, their own cowardice, their own refusal to take risks or chase dreams or stand for something real. But every time they laughed, every time they whispered, every time they shared your story like gossip at a funeral, they were actually doing you a favor. They were showing you exactly who they were. They were removing their masks without realizing it. They were giving you X-ray vision into the human soul, showing you that most people don't want you to succeed because your success reminds them of their failure. Your rise makes their stagnation unbearable. Your transformation exposes their excuses as lies. You learn to see through people, read between their words, feel the energy behind their smiles, detect the poison in their praise. Now, let's address the weapon you were building, because that's what this was really about. Every sleepless night was a page in the manual. Every tear was ink in the blueprint. Every moment of desperation was research and development. You weren't just enduring pain, you were weaponizing it, alchemizing it, transmuting it from lead into something so sharp it could cut through lies, through manipulation, through fake love, through false promises. You built a weapon out of your awareness, out of your ability to see patterns others miss, to feel shifts in energy others ignore, to predict outcomes others can't imagine. You built a weapon out of your silence, because silence isn't weakness when it's loaded, when it's calculated, when it's the pause before the storm. You built a weapon out of your memory, cataloging every person who smiled to your face and stabbed your back, everyone who ghosted when you needed them, everyone who celebrated your failures and envied your attempts. And here's the part they still don't understand. Even now as they watch you rising, even now as they see the results of your laboratory years, the weapon you built isn't revenge. It's not cruelty. It's not bitterness wrapped in success. No, the weapon is you, the evolved version, the upgraded model, the one who doesn't react to their provocations anymore, doesn't need their validation anymore, doesn't flinch when they try the same old tricks that used to work. The weapon is your emotional intelligence, your pattern recognition, your ability to walk away without explanation, your capacity to build in silence while they talk in circles. The weapon is your indifference to their opinions, your immunity to their judgment, your freedom from their expectations. They thought they were watching you break. They were actually watching you become bulletproof, fireproof, foolproof. They were watching you become the thing they could never manipulate again. Let me tell you what's happening to them right now, in their quiet moments when the lights go out and they're alone with their thoughts. They're thinking about you. They're wondering how you did it, how you climbed out of that hole they were so sure would be your forever home. They're scrolling through your life looking for clues, for cracks, for signs that you're faking it, that you're not really okay, that the pain is still there, just hidden better. But what they find confuses them. They find someone who doesn't post for validation, someone who doesn't explain themselves anymore, someone who moves with a different kind of confidence, not loud or obnoxious, but quiet and absolute, the kind of confidence that doesn't need to convince anyone of anything. They see someone who's built something real while they were busy building facades. They see someone who's genuinely happy while they're still performing happiness for an audience that doesn't care. The really twisted part is, some of them want to reach out now. Some of them want to reconnect, to apologize, to pretend they were always on your side, to rewrite history like they didn't laugh, didn't mock, didn't disappear when you were drowning. But you know what's beautiful about the laboratory years, about that time spent in isolation building your weapon? You learned discernment. You learned that not everyone deserves access to the new you, that some bridges need to stay burned, that closure is a gift you give yourself, not something you wait to receive from people who never cared. You learned that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, that you can release the anger without opening the door, that peace isn't about letting everyone back in, but about being selective with who gets close to the empire you built from ruins. Now we enter the section they feared would come, the part where you're not just surviving but dominating, not just recovered but unreachable, not just healed but evolved into something they don't have language for. You walk different now, not arrogant but assured, not loud but present. Rooms shift when you enter them. Conversations pause just long enough for everyone to register. Something has changed, something fundamental, something molecular. You don't try to impress anymore because you've transcended the need for external validation. You don't try to fit in because you've realized fitting in with mediocrity is its own kind of prison. You don't try to be understood by people who've never been where you've been, who've never built what you've built, who've never transformed pain into power the way you have. You just exist, and your existence is proof that rock bottom is optional as a final destination. Let's talk about what you learned in that laboratory that they'll never understand. You learned that success built on suffering has a different weight than success handed to you. You learned that confidence earned through hell is unshakable, while confidence given by privilege crumbles under pressure. You learned that the friendships forged in fire last longer than the ones formed in comfort. You learned that people show you who they really are when you have nothing to offer them, and that information is priceless because it helps you build your circle correctly the second time around. You learned that your worth isn't determined by your bank account, your relationship status, your job title, or anyone's opinion of you. You learned that you can lose everything material and still have everything essential as long as you don't lose yourself, as long as you keep that core of who you are intact and untouchable. Here's what makes you dangerous now. What makes you the thing they whisper about when you're not around. You're not motivated by what most people chase anymore. You're not impressed by superficial success, by fake luxury, by borrowed confidence, by performative wealth. You've seen behind the curtain. You know what's real and what's theater. You know the difference between actual power and the performance of power, between genuine happiness and the simulation of happiness for social media. You can't be manipulated with status symbols because you've had nothing and survived. You can't be controlled with fear of loss because you've lost everything and rebuilt. You can't be intimidated by people who've never been tested because you've been through tests that would have destroyed them. You're operating on a different frequency now, a frequency most people will never access because they've never been forced to. The laboratory years taught you something else they'll never learn because they've never had to. You learned that every person who laughed at your struggle was actually documenting their own character, providing evidence of who they really are when someone is down. You learned that every person who disappeared during your darkness was actually doing you a favor, removing themselves from your future, showing you they were never meant to be in your next chapter. You learned that every person who kicked you when you were down was actually strengthening your resolve, adding fuel to your fire, giving you names to remember when you build your empire. You don't need revenge because their absence from your success is revenge enough. You don't need to prove anything because your existence is proof. You don't need to explain your journey because the results speak louder than words ever could. Now, let's address the psychological shift that happened in that laboratory, the mental transformation that makes you untouchable now. You stopped believing that people's opinions of you were more accurate than your own assessment of yourself. You stopped giving weight to the judgments of people who've never done what you're attempting, who've never risked what you've risked, who've never rebuilt what you've rebuilt. You stopped seeking approval from a world that rewards conformity and punishes authenticity. You stopped apologizing for wanting more, for being intense, for having standards, for refusing to settle, for walking away from situations that diminish you. You stopped shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. Stopped dimming your light so others don't feel inadequate. Stopped playing small so others don't feel threatened. You claimed your full presence, your full power, your full potential, and that's what terrifies them. The weapon you built in that laboratory isn't made of anger or bitterness. It's made of clarity and boundaries and standards and self-respect. It's made of the knowledge that you can survive anything, that you're stronger than any circumstance, that you're more resilient than any setback. It's made of the understanding that people are temporary, but your relationship with yourself is permanent. So that's the relationship you invest in. That's the relationship you protect. That's the relationship you prioritize above all others. It's made of the wisdom that comes from watching yourself rise from ashes multiple times, from seeing yourself solve problems that seemed unsolvable, from witnessing your own transformation from victim to victor, from broken to unbreakable, from lost to found by your own hand. Here's what they see when they look at you now, what makes them uncomfortable, what makes them avoid your eyes, what makes them nervous in your presence. They see someone who doesn't need anything from them. They see someone who's happy without their approval, successful without their help, complete without their validation. They see someone who's moved on completely, who doesn't think about them anymore, who doesn't wonder what they're doing, who doesn't care if they're watching. They see someone who's built a life so fulfilling that their absence isn't even noticed, their opinions aren't even considered, their judgment isn't even relevant. And that complete indifference to their existence is more devastating than any revenge you could have planned. Because what's worse than being hated is being forgotten, being irrelevant, being nothing more than a footnote in someone's transformation story. The laboratory was never meant to be comfortable, it was meant to be transformative. And transformation by definition means you don't come out the same. You don't come out softer or nicer or more forgiving. You come out sharper, clearer, more discerning, more selective, more protective of your peace. You come out knowing exactly what you will and won't tolerate, exactly who deserves access and who doesn't, exactly where to invest your energy and where to withdraw it. You come out with boundaries that are walls, not fences, with standards that are non-negotiable, not flexible, with a vision that's crystal clear, not clouded by other people's limitations. You come out as someone who's been to hell and learned the layout, studied the patterns, mapped the exits, and decided never to return regardless of who's calling you back down there. Now, let's talk about the moment they realized their mistake. The moment the laughter died in their throats. The moment they understood that mocking your struggle was the worst decision they could have made. It was the moment you stopped responding to them, stopped explaining yourself, stopped defending your choices, stopped caring about their narratives. It was the moment you disappeared from their awareness, not because you were hiding, but because you were building, creating, evolving in spaces they couldn't access, on levels they couldn't reach, with people they couldn't compete with. It was the moment they refreshed your page and saw evidence of a life they didn't recognize, success they couldn't explain, happiness they couldn't diminish, peace they couldn't disturb. It was the moment they realized you weren't the same person they laughed at. You were someone completely different, someone they no longer knew, someone they could no longer predict or control or manipulate. The weapon you built in your laboratory has one specific function, one purpose that makes it more effective than any revenge plot, any public call-out, any exposed truth. It makes you immune. Immune to their games, their tactics, their manipulations. Immune to their fake apologies, their convenient amnesia, their attempts to rewrite history. Immune to their judgments, their projections, their attempts to make you feel guilty for moving on. Immune to their presence, their absence, their opinions, their existence. You've become the thing they can't touch, can't reach, can't affect. You've built an internal fortress so strong that their words bounce off, their energy slides away. Their attempts to reconnect are met with polite indifference or complete silence. You are not reactive anymore because you've processed everything in that laboratory. You've already worked through every possible scenario, every potential manipulation, every likely approach they might take. Let's go deeper into what makes this weapon so effective, so permanent, so impossible to defend against. It's built on truth. It's built on your actual experience of them, not who they pretended to be, but who they revealed themselves to be when you were vulnerable. It's built on pattern recognition, on your ability to see that people don't fundamentally change. They just get better at hiding who they are until the next time circumstances reveal their true character. It's built on self-trust, on the knowledge that your instincts were right even when they gaslit you. Your feelings were valid even when they dismissed them. Your boundaries were necessary even when they called them walls. It's built on the understanding that you survived them once, and that survival proved you never needed them, that you can build a beautiful life without their presence, that you're actually better off without their energy in your space. The laboratory years gave you something they can never take away, something more valuable than money or status or connections. They gave you unshakable self-knowledge. You know exactly who you are now because you've seen yourself at your lowest and watched yourself climb. You know exactly what you're capable of because you've done things you didn't think were possible. You know exactly what you value because you've lost everything and chosen what to rebuild first. You know exactly who belongs in your life because you've seen who stays when there's nothing to gain. You know exactly what you won't tolerate because you've experienced the cost of tolerating things that diminish you. You know yourself in a way that people who've never been broken and rebuilt never will. And that self-knowledge is power. The kind of power that can't be shaken by external circumstances, can't be diminished by other people's opinions, can't be stolen by any betrayal or setback. Now we arrive at the present moment, the reality they're living in right now, the consequences of their choices. They're watching you from a distance, too proud to admit they were wrong, too stubborn to apologize sincerely, too cowardly to face what they did when you were down. They're watching you succeed and telling themselves it's luck, telling themselves it won't last, telling themselves you've changed for the worse. anything to avoid admitting that you were always this strong and they just couldn't see it. They're watching you happy and convincing themselves you're faking it, that you're lonely, that you miss them. Anything to avoid facing the truth that you've moved on completely and built something better without them. They're watching you thrive and trying to find cracks in the foundation, weaknesses in your armor, signs that you're not really okay. Because if you're genuinely better off without them, then what does that say about them? The answer is simple and devastating. It says they were the weight, not the support. They were the problem, not the solution. They were the drain, not the fuel. They were the noise, not the signal. And now they have to live with that knowledge, that understanding that they had a front row seat to someone's transformation and chose to laugh instead of learn, chose to mock instead of support, chose to kick someone when they were down instead of offering a hand up. They have to live with the fact that you don't think about them anymore, don't wonder about them anymore, don't care what they're doing or who they're with or what they think about your life now. They've become irrelevant, background noise, names without faces, memories without emotion. And for people who thrived on being central to your story, that irrelevance is its own kind of ending. Your laboratory produced something they can't replicate, something they can't buy, something they can't fake. It produced authenticity born from fire, confidence earned through hell, peace created from chaos, success built on foundation of failure and rebuilt dreams. It produced someone who knows the difference between being alone and being lonely, between being quiet and being weak, between being forgiving and being foolish, between being kind and being available for mistreatment. It produced someone who's comfortable with themselves, who doesn't need constant validation, who doesn't fear silence, who doesn't chase relationships that don't reciprocate, who doesn't stay in situations that require them to shrink. It produced someone who's genuinely happy, not because life is perfect, but because they've learned to find joy in the journey, peace in the process, growth in the struggle. Let's talk about what happens next, because this story doesn't end with you simply surviving. It ends with you thriving in ways they can't comprehend, building things they can't imagine, reaching heights they can't visualize. It ends with you surrounded by people who actually deserve you, who prove their loyalty through actions, not words, who show up consistently, not conveniently, who celebrate your wins without envy and support you through losses without judgment. It ends with you looking back at your laboratory years, not with bitterness, but with gratitude, because those years made you who you are, because that pain was the price of admission to this level of consciousness, because that struggle was necessary for this strength. It ends with you understanding that they did you a favor by showing their true colors, by removing themselves, by laughing at your struggle, because their absence created space for people and opportunities that actually aligned with who you're becoming.